2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Let me tell you, the response to the show has been absolutely amazing. People can't believe that a young conservative millennial continues to fight for constitutional principles, traditional values, and talks about issues that some are even afraid to talk about. But we do it because we understand the importance of this. And now we're seeing it absolutely blow up all across the nation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, welcome into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along for the ride today on a pre-Friday celebration, one of your most favoritist days of the whole week. You get to see the light at the end of the tunnel, the way we rock and roll each and every day here on the show. Welcome in, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here on the flagship station of the Big Talker KQAM in Wichita, Kansas, on numerous stations all over the country, on radio, TV, live streaming at Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, on Parler, on Minds.com, all at Hooser Reason, also online at HooserReason.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter. You can check out the live stream, check out the podcast. If you can't find us, then what the heck's wrong with you, man? We got so much to get to today. We have apparently some differences between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I don't know, maybe, right? Yeah, maybe. A little bit. Which I want to talk about with our next guest. We have, if you remember, the doctor that spoke in Washington, D.C. that's been shunned from social media, Dr. Emanuel. I have a clip from her. She's gotten interviewed from CNN, and they were trying to talk to her about, oh, wait a second. You have all these crazy religious views. Is that tampering what your message is, trying to get out about the hydroxychloroquine and the zinc? And her response is absolutely beautiful. This really shows that the quote-unquote woke side of the aisle really has no idea what the heck they're talking about. And while they try and claim that they're open-minded, that they're tolerant of other views, that they're this, that, and the other, they really have no idea, and they really don't want to know either. It really is evident, and being interviewed by someone like CNN is kind of example of that. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But I'm really excited. Let's break down. Let's just say, out of some crazy, wild reason, that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are going to be the nominees for president of the United States. Is that too far out there to say? I know it's a joke. Joe Biden, really? Really? You got to write on the magic marker on your forearm to remember your speeches. You don't want to debate because you're a little scared of debating. Let's talk about some policy differences, shall we? We have Donald Trump, and we have a Joe Biden. We have Joe Biden, who's been in office since, what, like 1976, 1978, something absurd, as a senator. He was vice president for 8 years as well under the Barack Obama administration. What does he actually believe? I got to be honest, I really don't know. because he's the one that came out and said there's no such thing as clean coal energy while Barack Obama's campaigning on clean coal energy. So I don't know. So let's get with our guest and see what he has to say as we especially talk about some of the environmental policy differences between the two, but some other policies as well. He is the National Director of Collegians for the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, or CFACT. You can visit him online, cfact.org. It's a nonprofit organization based out of Washington, D.C. He's also testified for the Department of Interior and Arctic National Wildlife Refuge drilling. Oh, yeah, those evil drillers out there. And we'll talk about some of that and more here, but it's Adam Hooser. It's going to be fun. Andy Hooser hanging out with Adam Hooser here on the program. Adam, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show very much so. The differences are obvious between the two candidates, but let's talk about environmentalism for just a moment. If a Joe Biden gets into office versus what Donald Trump has done while he's been in office on something like environmental policy. Donald Trump was able to repeal the Water Act, or the water rule that was in place that Barack Obama put in place, really saying that if it rained really, really hard in the back of my farm, then that's quote-unquote navigable water, and the U.S. government, the EPA, gets to essentially take over that land and that water, and you can't do anything about it. They tried to push the fact that any farms, I mean, we're out here in Kansas, me personally, where we see a lot of the, a lot of the harvesters are out there in trucks driving on dirt roads, kicking up dust. And the EPA tried to say that that was a pollutant into the atmosphere, and that we need to, I guess, have a sprayer behind all of our trucks when we drive down a dirt road. Is that the kind of environmental crazy policy that a Joe Biden administration would try to advocate for if he became president?
Yes, and unfortunately, I think it would be even worse than that. It's funny you were saying in your intro here that you're not sure what Joe Biden believes, and that has more truth to it than I think you understand. Is that Joe Biden, he was preached as this moderate candidate, but now that he has to kind of circle the wagons for this Democratic base, AOC, Bernie Sanders, they're in charge of his environmental policy and his climate policy. So he just unleashed this whole new climate plan where he's essentially planning to save the earth through this thing. And the big thing in that is that it creates this whole civilian climate corps. It's going to cost $2 trillion, and he's going to hire all of these new federal government workers to try to work in the name of climate justice. So, I would have rather just having a few more things regulated, but now we've got a whole new civilian climate corps army going out there trying to put the Green New Deal in our backyard.
Wow. So the Green New Deal, I thought it was dead. I mean, I loved Mitch McConnell's tactic of taking AOC's Green New Deal, putting it on the Senate floor, and even co-sponsors from the Senate that was, at that time, presidential candidates with Kamala Harris and a few others. They ended up even not voting for it because we wanted to see how absurd this bill actually was, wanting to rebuild every building in the nation, wanting to end all flight travel in the nation because that was really bad for the environment. But this thing's not dead, and there's actually a big push to continue this on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of organizations that have popped up whose sole mission is to push the Green New Deal in America, one of them being the Sunrise Movement, which is this radical environmentalist organization. They're trying to get the Green New Deal passed, and they're trying to get socialists elected all across America at all levels of government. And with a lot of these violent protests that we've had going on, tearing the country apart, the Sunrise Movement is one of those organizations that are trying to exacerbate those, use them to create a crisis so that our rulers, our leaders are forced to put in more socialistic, tyrannical policies, and that's how they get some of this climate justice stuff through. So they've linked these two things together, climate change and racial justice and socialism, in this radical push to try to get the Green New Deal forced down America's throat.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all one and one, isn't it? I mean, regulation on environmental purposes is really just the scapegoat to say we want to control private industry. We want to be able to regulate what kind of car you can drive, what kind of toilet paper you can use, what kind of light bulb you're allowed to put in your house. I mean, it's really just a vast, we need to control you, not to mention if you want to go further down the line with population control, because how dare we'd end up harming the environment, or as many environmentalist groups say, we rape the earth of its resources because there are way too many humans. We should just contain ourselves in cities and then let the rest of the world just be vegetative states in nature and be all natural. This is really nothing more than a major push for control.
Yeah, it's all about control. That's all socialism is. That's all that radical climate change policy is. And, these climate activists, they're looking at these lockdowns for the virus, and, matter of factly, they're jealous because they've been advocating for this for decades, that we need to stop travel, we need to stop industry, stop doing all these things in the name of climate change. And so they're looking at this virus that's getting all this attention, and they're jealous of that. Unfortunately, or thankfully for us, the facts aren't on their side, in that when they've shut down the country for these things, the CO2 emissions over the entire Earth continue to go up, because a lot of that has to do with natural causes. Yeah. And so when you get into the science, you realize that, hold on, a lot of these things don't add up. It's got to be about control. It's got to be about wanting to establish a more dominant federal or even United Nations government around the world to control your individual liberty.
Yeah, no doubt. Did we fall for it at the very beginning? I mean, with this virus, that's a perfect example, because we actually talked about that yesterday. Is they use the same kind of scare tactics, the fear of politics, and if you don't buy into it, then you're the evil person wanting to kill everybody on the face of the earth, sort of thing. And what they've done with the virus, we went along with for a while until we started to catch on to, wait a second, you can go and protest in the thousands, but you can't show up to church. What the heck's kind of going on here? Did we fall for it all the way back when Al Gore came out and, used his nice little escalator deal and rose up and said, this is where the CO2 levels are going to be, and in 12 years we're going to see all the borders of the United States underwater because the sea levels are going to rise that much? I mean, did we actually fall for that fear back then, or did we actually be smart enough to realize that wasn't the case?
Well, I think a lot of us did fall for it, but part of the reason is because that leftists have taken over our education system in this country, and they've taken over the education system at many countries around the world. And so when you finally, after decades of teaching children that capitalism is evil, that we're destroying the planet, that humans are generally bad influence on the earth, which isn't true, and then all of a sudden all it takes is one last domino to fall, someone famous like Al Gore, to make a very visually attractive movie and say that, and here's the final domino, that we are destroying the planet faster than we ever could have realized. And so after decades of being conditioned to think one way, a lot of people took it hook, line, and sinker. Now, thankfully, there's people like you and me who aren't quite along that path, but a lot of us, unfortunately, have, and that's what we're trying to fight back against now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We're talking with Adam Hooser, the National Director of Collegians for the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow. cfact.org, cfact.org is the website there. Let's talk about the evolution of this environmental movement. First off, I mean, you can look all the way back when, like the 80s, and we had the global cooling period, then we had the acid rain period, then we had the global warming period. Now we just have the climate change period, because we don't necessarily know what's going on, but something's going on, and we're the ones that are actually causing it. Are they the ones creating this term, or is it them being challenged with their ideas every day to where they have to kind of change their messaging?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, these climate activists and these bureaucrats, whether that's James Hansen, which is one of the very alarmist climatologists at NASA, who kind of kicked this whole thing off in the 80s when he was testifying on Capitol Hill about global warming, one of the first times that has ever been mentioned, in a public policy sphere. They opened up all the windows and turned the air conditioner off the night before, so it would be sweltering in the Capitol Hill room while they're testifying about global warming. So they're not amateurs when it comes to how to phrase these things and how to pursue their policy goals. So a lot of it is them adapting to political pressure and adapting to what's happening. When we started pointing out, like you said, that, hey, hold on, the climate's been cooler with higher levels of CO2 in the past and vice versa, and maybe this doesn't all line up. Oh, now it's climate change. So we don't just have to worry about temperatures. We're worrying about hurricanes. We're worrying about droughts. And so the fear is just constantly turned up all the way.
Yeah, well, I love the fact I still remember the radio interview with Danny Glover where he said the earthquakes in Haiti were caused by climate change. That was pretty epic.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the mindset we have, then all right. Apparently the earthquakes and the tectonic plates shifting is due to man-made climate change on that front. We got about a minute before we got to take a break here, but when we come back, I want to tease you with this one as we talk about the difference between between a Joe Biden and a Donald Trump mentality. AOC leading the charge with this. Is she going to be, in her mindset, the Bernie Sanders, the AOC, is that going to be the face of the Democrat Party and Joe Biden's going to go along with it? Or do you think that they will go to the wayside because it's become too radical, and maybe even some blue dog Democrats or moderate Democrats might be able to wake up and actually rattle their cages and make sure that they're not going to get any power? So I want to do that when we come back. We're talking with Adam Hooser. Plus, when we come back as well, I want to get your thoughts on moving forward with a Joe Biden, if he is the nominee, which it's obviously going to be, but when he is the nominee, how we actually try to target and market and actually message against someone like him. Because remember, he's just the lovey-dovey Joe Biden who's been there forever, and he's going to be the nice, moderate guy that's going to take us away from this radical like Donald Trump. So we'll do all that and more when we come back. It's The Voice of Reason. It's a Thursday. Plus, Dr. Emanuel, is she as crazy as she says or thinks, or people think that she is? We'll play some of those clips with an interview she did with CNN. It's kind of a fun one today. It's a Thursday. It's a pre-Friday celebration. It's The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome into it. It is a Thursday. Great to have you along for the ride today. Hanging out, cramming 10 pounds of reason into a 5-pound bag, trying to rebrand the millennial generation one radio listener at a time. Why? Because we can, by golly gee williker. Great to have you today. By the way, do me a favor. If you see us on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live or on Twitter, on Twitch, or anywhere we're doing the live streaming, which we are on all of those platforms, make sure to share it, because I got 5 different messages yesterday saying that it didn't even notify them that we were live on there until about 10 minutes before the show was over. I know, right? So if you do it, then go on there, just say hi, then like it, and then share it onto your own feed. You can kind of break that algorithm, because sometimes we get really awesome numbers and then sometimes we get nothing, and it just depends on whether we fall into that algorithm thing or not. The big tech thing, we had a fun conversation with a great guest yesterday regarding that one. Today, we're talking with Adam Hooser. He's with the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow. You can visit them, cfact.org, talking about some of the differences ideologically with the candidates for president, obviously with Trump and Biden. And I had teased a little bit before the break, but AOC, we laugh at her. She's easy to make fun of. She's kind of like the Joe Biden of, but yet she says some really dumb things. I love her live streaming that she does sometimes, just saying really, really dumb things like what's a garbage disposal, which is still my favorite clip from her. But is she the new face of the Democrats? Nancy Pelosi despises her because she can't control her. Is the old guard of the Democrats dead, and is Joe Biden part of the old guard, or has he evolved and adapted to be a pawn for the new age progressives?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you hit the nail on the head there with talking about Nancy Pelosi's attitude towards AOC. The old guard of the Democratic Party is certainly dying. I mean, you think about who is sort of like a moderate blue dog Democrat that's an up-and-comer in the Democratic Party, and I can't really think of too many. And so what Biden's doing here by incorporating AOC and Bernie Sanders, who are these more left-wing heroes of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, is he's trying to create this Democratic coalition to push him across the edge in the election coming up. Now, in the future, I think that AOC and those type of more liberal folks are going to have a split in the Democratic Party should Biden win or should he lose, because there is that real animosity there and that difference of, okay, we're Democrat crazy, but we're not socialist crazy versus AOC, who's full-on avowed socialist.
Mm-hmm. Going in and looking at like a VP run, and Joe Biden, obviously, and we've said it, and so many other people have said it, that whoever the VP is with Joe Biden is predominantly going to run the country, whether he's got dementia, whether they make him step down, whatever it is. I think that whoever the vice president is going to essentially run the country if he becomes president. And I don't think he's going to become president, but if he does, then it's going to be the VP that really dominates a lot of things. Who do you think that is, and are they going to be the ones really pushing that more progressive agenda?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, every time I thought there was a front runner, something comes out that really, I think, torpedoes their possibility. At first, I thought it was going to be Amy Klobuchar, but it turns out she had a lot to do with some of the lax policing laws that led to the whole George Floyd situation. Then I thought it was going to be Kamala Harris, but she's got a lot of baggage with her, prosecution record and that whole cops thing. Now, I think Biden has backed himself into a corner where it has to be a woman and it has to be a woman of color. And I think that, even though she lost the gubernatorial election, maybe Stacey Abrams is on that short list that hasn't really been talked about. She's the person who lost the governor's race in Georgia, who the left kind of propped up as, the new liberal wave of the South that never came to fruition. So every time they start airing somebody, they really get torpedoed by some of the past things they've said or done. And so I don't know. Maybe that could be a sleeper pick.
Well, I think that would be hilarious because the best they got are a bunch of losers that couldn't win the seats. So you know what? If that's the best the Democrats got, then bring it on, baby, because it's going to be fun. Andy, Adam Hooser, I appreciate the time very much, my friend. Great information. We got to get you back on the show again here real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. Great conversation there. We'll do it again here in just a bit. Bottom of the hour news coming up. When we come back, we'll shift gears a little bit, get your thoughts on all this and more. It's the Voice of Reason on a Thursday.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of the Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hooser Media Network is way more than just the Voice of Reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast, Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that Rachel and Shannon want to help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hooser Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason, and I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yes, you are. It's a Thursday. It's the Voice of Reason. Thanks for hanging out with us today all over, wherever you may be, radio, TV, live streaming. We are really excited as we're talking with some new affiliates potentially jumping onto the program, so that'll be happening soon. We'll be doing some announcements here in just a bit. Stay tuned in for that. Until then, you can always check it out at HooserReason.com. You can find the podcast, the live streaming, some stuff about the show, some fun photographs of things that we've done, events that we've been involved with. The blog that we have, our monthly blog, you can always find on there as well. And definitely become a Hoosier-holic by when the pop-up shows up. It says, do you want to become a Hoosier-holic? You say, heck yeah. You put in your email address, and then we send you a monthly newsletter as well. It's really simple. It's free. It's cool. And we talk about some deeper issues that we do here on the show. Thanks again to Adam joining the program. Adam Hooser and Andy Hooser. That's a fun show. That was fun trying to get through, but it was great information. We appreciate it very much. We're going to get him back on the program. There's so many things. I don't know which direction to go here with some of the latest news. So we have Nevada governor proclaiming racism as a public health crisis. Oh, yeah. And we got some listeners in Nevada, in the Las Vegas area. But the governor now proclaiming that racism is a public health crisis. Show of hands, please. Show of hands, a.k.a. like a comment in the social media threads if you're watching on there. Or you can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Do you know anybody? Now, we're not talking progressives here for just a second with their crazy like protests of everybody's racist, so therefore Black Lives Matter, and if you're not, then you're part of the problem. That is racism, but that's not what I'm talking about for just a second. I'm talking about the racism that they claim is going on in society. Do you know anybody that is actually a racist? Do you know anybody? I don't. I don't know a single person that's actually a racist, that makes racist slurs, that says we hate one group because of something, or rather, I don't know anybody. If it's a public health crisis, that means it's rampant everywhere. And that's really what the progressives think, is that it's systematic in our society, so therefore it's based in your DNA. There's nothing you can do about it. You judge people differently based on their skin color, which we don't as conservatives. We base on your character. And if you're a dummy or a jerk, then you're just a dummy or a jerk. I don't really care what color your skin is, or what sexual orientation you have, or what gender you are. It makes no bit of difference whatsoever. We don't play those identity politics like they do. But the governor now has proclaimed that racism is a public health crisis. Now, if you want to look at racism, if you want to look at sexism, if you want to look at bigotry, then the progressives need to do what they say that we need to do, is look themselves in the mirror and see what they're really all about. And there's a prime example of this. If you don't agree with their mindset, even if you're of minority descent, or even if you are a different gender, or even if you are a woman or whatever, if you don't believe in their mindset, then you are harming their cause, and you're really not what you really are. Perfect example, Joe Biden. If you vote for Trump, then you ain't black, right? That means that if you don't follow the mindset of what the progressives want, then you are not of that nationality, you're not of that culture, because how dare you think that you could actually vote for the opposition? You're not truly authentic. You are an Uncle Tom. You are the problem child. You are the exemption that proves the rule, whatever they want to look at. You are worse than what we're trying to go after, because you are of that minority descent and you're not falling in line. We should have complete control of you. That's what they want. There's another prime example. This Dr. Stella Emanuel, the gal that went on to the court steps in Washington, D.C. and started talking about hydroxychloroquine and about zinc. And she talked about, you know what, I've cured 350 different patients with this. It's fantastic. It's great. This is all you got to do. We did it in Nigeria, where I got my medical certification. I did this, and it's great. It works fantastic. I've been using it for years, and they don't have any issues. Hydroxychloroquine and zinc, it's great. We've had doctors on saying the same thing here on the show, but she said that in social media, boom, banned. Boom, gone, silenced, censored, blackmailed, blacklisted. You're not allowed to say that because it's wrong. She is a woman, shocker. She is a woman of color, shocker. She is foreign with a different culture, shocker, right? Dr. Stella Emanuel from Nigeria. Now, in any other circumstance for progressives, this would fit perfect in their narrative if she had the message they wanted. If she had the message they wanted, she would be paraded as the new expert. To hell with Dr. Fauci, because he's just a white rich guy who's been in the government for a long time, and he's part of the establishment, and he's just a rich white guy. To heck with him. Dr. Stella Emanuel, she's the one pushing for vaccines. She's the one. It's a woman, it's a minority woman, and it's a foreign minority woman. Therefore, if you disagree with her in any way, shape, or form, you are racist, you are sexist, you are bigoted, and you are not tolerant of other cultures in any way, shape. That's what the narrative would be. But the fact that she's going against it, does that make them racist? I think it does. Does that make them intolerant? I think it does. Does that make them sexist? I think it does. But you want to talk about the progressives and how, if you remember, during the 2016 election with Hillary Clinton, she had to take classes on how to be relatable to people because she wasn't relatable. Democrats predominantly really aren't relatable to people except for their little clique of who they hang around with the elites in college, with the tenured professors that sit around and smoke the cigar and drink the scotch and talk about hoity-toity things, or whether it's the, crowd of a minority group where they can't relate outside of that, but they can relate to that because that's their one thing, that's their one little niche, and that's the crowd that they want to represent. Because that's all they know. They put everybody in these boxes, and if you're part of that box, then you're cool. If you're not part of that box, then we got nothing to do with you. And the Democrat Party itself, the progressive movement, has become so unrelatable to the general public that they don't get it. They just don't get it. They don't get things. They don't get common sense. Perfect example. I don't know if you saw or not, but Dr. Stella Emanuel, I thought it was hilarious, which is why I got to play it. It's about 3.5 minutes, and I don't know if we'll play the whole thing, but we'll stop it intermittently as well. She did a sit-down with CNN. Now, for progressives, if they're interviewing a woman, they're interviewing a minority woman. If they're interviewing a foreign minority woman, then that would be the epitome. They are, totally woke, totally understanding, and that would be the perfect interview for them. She could play the victim card. She could play the woman card. She could play the nationality card. People don't understand her because of her culture, and we need to be more tolerant and open-minded with different cultures. This would be the perfect interview for an organization like CNN. And how do you think it went? Well, this is how it went.
Do you feel like you've been vilified since you were in Washington? I mean, people have brought up these videos, these sermons, they've made you out that, how do you look at it?
I would really like to, I know a lot of people are kind of like, well, Dr. Stella, for you. I don't have one, let me put it this way, I don't even have one bone in my body that feels vilified. Really. I'm one of those, I'm like a totally thick-skinned, number one. Number two, I'm I don't have I'm not sensitive about stuff. I don't have a sensitive bone in my body, so I really don't care.
When people...
All right, so let's stop right there for a second. Don't you feel a little victimized here? You're being attacked, you're being berated for your religious views because you're kind of like a religious kook. You're crazy. Don't you feel a little bit victimized here? No, I don't feel victimized. They can believe whatever they want to. Mind blown, number one. Mind blown. Wait a second, you're a woman, you're a minority woman, you're a foreign minority woman. You don't feel victimized? You don't think people are against you here? You don't feel a little bit awkward because of this? No, I don't. Are you kidding? This is what I stand for. This is what I'm doing. And if you don't like it, oh well. He's like, wait a second. No, don't you feel a little victimized? Number one, they just don't grasp it. If you're not playing the victim, it goes over their head. They're not used to this kind of mentality when this is really how the rest of the world operates. It's just the snowflake, quote-unquote, mentality here in the United States. Let's continue, shall we?
Bring up your religious beliefs. Does that bother you?
Bother me? You kidding me? Let me tell you something. I had this video I did about incubus, succubus spirit, which are like demonic spirits that sleep with people at night. This video...
So, to some people, that's a far-out concept.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Listen, that video, before CNN started promoting it, had about maybe 175,000 views. Do you know how many views it's had right now?
How many?
600 and something thousand views. CNN has been the greatest promoter of my ministry. Let me tell you something. I'm God's battle axe. My ministry has fire. If you watch that video, it's gonna hit you like fire.
But you're not concerned that people are using that video to undermine your position medically?
How does that undermine my position?
Well, it's just not. I mean,
you know how many people
it's off the beaten path to say that demons are sleeping with you overnight.
But demons are sleeping with people.
Are they?
Yes. People call me from all over the world for it. They just exposed it. Do you know how many people are suffering this that are like texting me, Dr. Emmanuel, I watched the video and I'm delivered? CNN just exposed it. CNN has done like the greatest job of promoting my ministry. You kidding me?
CNN is not prepared for someone who doesn't care what the elites think. Progressive mindsets don't get it. They're not prepared when people say, I don't care, to fit in with your nice little narrow-mindedness view. That's supposed to be woke, by the way. You're supposed to be woke and tolerant. And look, if anybody knows anything about Nigeria or parts of Africa like that, you know that there are a lot of voodoo witches. You know that there's a lot of different spiritual things that go on. And they've seen things, she has seen things that will probably scare half the American population into oblivion because they're not used to those types of things. And if you don't believe in that stuff, you don't believe in that stuff, and that's fine. But I personally believe there is very much a spiritual world out there. And I've personally seen a lot of things that would scare a lot of individuals. So that's one thing, but he just doesn't get it. Wait a second. You're not vilified by this? Wait a second. Like, this is really going on? Like, this isn't hurting you? Oh, no. In fact, CNN is the biggest advocate for my ministry now because you keep playing it and mocking me. And at the same time, my numbers keep going up. More people keep calling me. I get more attention from this. This is helping me beyond anything else. You guys are helping me. So thank you, CNN, because your ministry is actually making things better for me. They don't get that. Mind blown for the progressives. I think it's hilarious. They're not prepared to actually deal with someone who just doesn't care what they have to think. It started with Donald Trump, and it's going along with Stella Emanuel. More after this right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the voice of reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason, and I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the program today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites and have the show automatically downloaded to your phone or computer every single day. Just find us on any podcasting site or go to HooserReason.podbean.com. And be sure to check out our Patreon site, become the ultimate Hooserholic, and help us fight for conservative values every day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Now back to the national broadcast of the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yes, you are. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Last segment for today on a pre-Friday celebration. I don't play those clips of Dr. Stella Emanuel to make you believe her or want to believe her or agree with her in any way, shape, or form. That's not the point that I'm trying to get to. But the left progressive, quote-unquote, woke movement, the fact that they've demonized a lady, a female who they say is being shunned by white men anyways, a minority female who they say is really being shunned by the white man anyways, and a foreign female of minority descent who is really being demonized by the white person who doesn't like any type of immigrant or any type of foreigner coming into their country. They're the ones that have demonized her more than anybody else and have used, by the way, the culture of her religion to say that she's unfit to be doctor, that she's not credible, that you can't believe her. And this is the progressive left that's supposed to say that you're supposed to believe them more than anybody else because they are the ones that are cultured beyond the United States. They're the ones that are women. They're the ones that are minority. So therefore, if you discredit them, then you are the racist, sexist, close-minded bigots of anybody of a different culture. Are they hypocritical by demonizing her and shunning her and silencing her and blacklisting her off of social media because she agrees with something different than what they do? I find it interesting. That's why I want to play that, and that's why I want to talk about her for a second, because I think it's hilarious of how hypocritical the left actually, which we already knew that. Come on, be honest. We already knew. We already knew just a little bit, right? Here's what's trending for today.
What's trending today?
So Bernie Sanders is out there pushing a radical agenda, and he's come up with a bill that's been co-sponsored by Ed Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts, along with Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, introducing a 60% tax on the windfall wealth increases of billionaires during the pandemic. And they're doing this in order to pay for the all out-of-pocket medical expenses for every person in America for the year. A 60% tax on the windfall wealth increases. If you've gained as a business during this pandemic, and if you've grown, any profit that you've seen during the pandemic and since it's began, you're going to pay a 60% tax on under this bill, because that is going to be used to pay for all the medical expenses for every person in the country for an entire year. Now, it's called the Make Billionaires Pay Act, and it would take $731 billion in wealth accumulated by 467 billionaires, the richest 0.001% of America, from March 18th until August 5th, which is a period in which 5.5 million Americans recently lost their health insurance and 50 million applied. This according to the press release from Bernie Sanders and his crowd here. The funds from the emergency tax would be used to cover all necessary health care expenses for the uninsured and underinsured, including prescription drugs, for an entire year. So we're going to take the wealth that they have created. Now, again, if you're wealthy, then we hate you and you don't pay enough taxes, even though the top 1% pay about 23% of all federal income tax in the entire nation. I think they pay their fair share, but we want to make billionaires pay. Therefore, it's the Make Billionaire Pay Act, taking $731 billion from the top 1% or 0.001% and using that to tax them at a 60% rate. Is that something you agree with? Is that something that you would advocate for? Because we hate the rich people, we hate billionaires, and therefore they need to pay their fair share, and we're going to pay for the health insurance for everybody else in America. You know, we wouldn't have this problem. I love how they put these little patches on, the little Band-Aid over a gaping wound, instead of sewing things up and going in, digging out the fungus, digging out, I'm getting a little graphic here, right? Digging out the fungus and the bacteria growing in your leg. Instead of doing that and then sewing it up with stitches, you just put a Band-Aid over it and be like, it's good. Because that's what they do. And this is exactly what that is. If you didn't have this problem, we would have insurance that would be competitive across the nation. You could afford it in your private insurance, even without your employer having to cover it. You could actually do it yourself, and then you could actually afford it even if you got, maybe not if you got let go of your job, and we could assist you temporarily in that front, but then you wouldn't have these high expenses for prescription drugs or for different medications or for different things you have, operations that you have to go for, because it would be cheap, because we had competition in a private market. But instead you screw up the health insurance system, and then you say, well, we got to make rich people pay for it because people can't afford it because there's a crisis. Again, reason number 2,586 why Democrats have screwed up processes, get the government injected into it, blame there's this problem in the system, and then try and take more control over it. But instead, now we have to tax the billionaires to cover it with the Make Billionaires Pay Act, covering a 60% windfall wealth increase for all those billionaires making profits during this time. It's crazy times we live in, and that's why we need to make sure Republicans and Donald Trump remain in office. That does it for us today. Podcast going up a little bit. Appreciate you hanging out. Tomorrow's a Friday. Make sure to stay tuned in for that one. Until then, be your own voice of reason. It's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason. Everybody have a great Thursday. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.